expectations, and we can and must do better. Number three, like I said before, I want to bring my firsthand knowledge and experience as a special needs dad to the school board to make sure that all families with special needs are treated with respect.
My top three priorities are full-day kindergarten. I was a kindergarten for 27 of my 36 years. And I've tried for the past 4 years to get this actually on the agenda. And so what has happened in the past 4 years is that we have now finally made it one of our school board's priorities for it to happen within the next 5 years. Virginia Beach is one of 3 localities in the entire state that still has half-day kindergarten. And so it's going to take money to do that. But my second priority is to instill better morale in our teachers and to treat them as professionals. And my third priority is to hire and retain teachers, the best teachers. And we can do that by having competitive salaries, not only with other localities of teachers or of educational systems, but competitive salaries that are competitive with the market workplace.
All right, our next question is this. How are you going to lower the waste in the school's budget?
First of all, I want to make sure that we look at the budget with a fine-tooth comb. After looking at the budget, there are a lot of places that we can cut. Did you know there are a lot of places that are being double funded? Things, to me, it looks like a slush fund. What I'm proposing to do is that we make sure that we take a look at every budget item, and that where we can cut, we cut. Another thing I want to do is I want to take a look at getting rid of some of that top-heavy administrative staff. There are a lot of teachers who have a hard time making ends meet, but then there are people who are at the school board administration who are making six-figure salaries who just sit around all day and do policy. They have a great idea to do policy, and so it's implemented. So I want to basically take a look at that. And you know, as I said, I'm the only candidate in this race who has looked at budgets and knows where to cut and know where you might want to spend a little bit more.
Lowering waste in the school's budget sounds kind of oxymoron kind of thing, because all monies that are expended to help our children can never be wasted. So whenever we invest in our schools and invest in our children, we're always doing the best thing for our city. So whenever we are looking at the budget, certainly we will look to see where we can best use funds, where funding can best be accommodated for, especially for our children, and that's the main thing. Our children come first. All programs and all things that treat them with the respect that they need and to give them what they need in the classroom each day can never be a waste. So that's my concern.
I analyzed some downtown administrative employees. I analyzed a small portion of them. It took me 15 hours. I analyzed 323 administrators. In 2 years, those administrators had received a 12% salary increase. That was $2.2 million just in raises. That is a waste. And we're wasting our money on administrators that have to implement the latest edu-fad, and that causes extra work for our teachers, costs us taxpayer money. I believe our taxes were just raised in this city, correct me if I'm wrong. And we need to find ways to cut taxes rather than raise them, and cut this overhead in our schools that is unnecessary. Why do we need a smart board and a whiteboard and whatever other board in every classroom that the teachers don't even use? We've got to cut that stuff out. Thank you.
I agree with Eric and Vicki about being top-heavy on bureaucracy, so I won't repeat all of that. One thing that I do not support is giving the school board taxing authority. We have too many governmental entities with that authority. Eliminating waste and being responsible with the budget requires courage. And so here's an example of one thing that I would stand for. I disagree with those who call for all-day kindergarten for all students. We We need it for some students based on testing. I would try to expand it to capture all those who genuinely need it based on testing. But studies show that for most students who go to full-day kindergarten versus half-day kindergarten, by the time they're in 3rd grade, there's no discernible difference. It would cost $15 million that we don't have to expand to full-day kindergarten, so I oppose that when we can't keep our school maintenance schedule up to date, and when we have failing schools in this city, we don't need to be wasting money on ideas that don't provide any benefit.
First of all, I'd like to say that there's been a lot of false misinformation. I should say false, but some misinformation that you're being given today. So I hope you'll take the time to either call me or email me and let me detail things further, because I won't have time today to go into all this. But you're being given a lot of misinformation today. But I will say that I've poured over the budget for 4 years, and we have cut, we have eliminated things from that we didn't need to eliminate, and I feel like, you know, the children are our future. And so for me, it's a matter of priorities, keeping the priorities where they should be, which is putting as much of the budget into the classrooms themselves, into the students themselves. So yes, I understand that we have people who are making higher salaries who have doctorate degrees, but if, you know, they are competitive with other educational areas as well.
He has an
Oh, sorry. I missed you.
That's okay. Sure, I'll speak. I work at an engineering company. We do construction documents. I do the blueprint, the electrical blueprints. The biggest waste of money for the school board is in their construction. They spent over $100 million on Kellogg High School. It should have been an $80 million project. They recently spent $750,000 renovating the superintendent's office. The Virginia Beach, we just built Kemp's Landing Magnet School. We paid $64 million. Norfolk just built a school similar. High school and middle school combined, they paid $42. Why is Virginia Beach paying so much more? Because we have a limited bidders list, and all 3 contractors know each other, and they figure out who needs the job and who doesn't. And the school board is going into the LEED's gold and platinum building. State law says they only need silver. Actually, the new state law says they're not allowed to do LEEDs anymore. They have to do the new system. I think we can control the construction budget. We'll do well there. Thank you.
I'm going to give you the first person. Okay, actually, I have a question directed specifically to her. And then there's a follow-up question very similar to Joe and opportunity to speak to. Do you truly think it's advantageous to instill unaccountability in our students by relieving them of their responsibility to complete assigned work? We know it's not up to the individual teachers, but about majority rules. What is your position?
Okay, so this is about what was passed the other night. And basically that had to do with the change that was made was last year some of the school board members had heard that there were some schools out there who were just kind of going rogue. And basically what I mean by that is that they decided to try other programs in grading students that we really hadn't approved yet. But in our policy, there was nothing to prohibit them from doing that. So we tried to toughen our policy a little bit so that what we do now is we're going to ask teachers to come together collaboratively by either grade level or department and decide how they're going to treat those issues. And then those will come up and they'll be approved. So the accountability part of it is still there. Students can still get 0 if they don't turn their work in. You know, you can't grade something that's not turned in. So that is misinformation that you've been given. Students would still get that.
Okay, this is a question for each of you. It feels as if homework has been de-emphasized in the school system to the detriment of the students. Please comment.
because as a counselor in elementary school and middle school, homework was certainly always an issue. And, I was with gifted children for the last 12 or so years of my career. And the problem with homework is that who can ensure that the homework is authentic, that this is the child's work? So, a child from a privileged family where there's attention from, both parents' input to help them with homework is one thing. And a child who is deprived of that attention and time at home may not be able to accomplish that. So to put so much emphasis on homework may not be the best way to evaluate and assess a student. A child should be assessed based on what they can do and perform in the classroom. While homework is good and it does give a child opportunity to practice and to get things done, who can ensure that this is truly the child's work?
In my son's school at Kemp's Landing, the entire 6th grade year my son was there, he never had one piece of homework. And I, as a parent, struggled to know what was being taught in the classroom because I used homework and looked at his homework. I never did his homework for him. But I used homework to know what he was doing in class and what he was being taught. Now students are receiving no homework. I'm not an advocate of a lot of homework. I think that our students spend a lot of time in the classroom. But I do think that homework serves a purpose, and it is needed in some classes such as foreign languages, math class. They need that repetition. And we fought over the last 2 years ago, we brought to the attention of the school board these pilot programs that they did not know about, but the superintendent had approved. We brought that to the attention of the school board. We fought to get homework to be graded, and now they have approved homework to be graded up to 10%. A teacher cannot grade homework completion for more than 10%.
At candidates forum a month ago, the two incumbents seeking re-election in contested races, Ms. Anderson is one of them, Joel McDonald the other, both responded to this whole grading issue and homework issue by saying they didn't know about it, so they can't be held responsible for it. The fact of the matter is this week, it was Ms. Anderson who made the motion and Joel McDonald who seconded it to give the power to the superintendent to implement whatever grading scheme he wants. And what the superintendent has already been doing is putting into effect throughout the system a grading scheme that says that homework should not count towards grades, that teachers should be required to accept all late work until the end of the 9th period with no meaningful penalty, that they can't give zeros, and that students should be allowed to retake tests until they get the grade they want. I'm running because I want to restore accountability to our grading system and to the school board, and have a school board that doesn't delegate its power and responsibility to an unelected administrator.
30 seconds to respond to that question.
Okay, first of all, homework. I want to address that, and I agree with Ms. Thompson in that you don't know who's really doing the homework. But as a former teacher, I do believe that there is a place for homework, that it should be a reinforcement of what you do in the classrooms. And so I do feel like there's a place for it, but I don't feel like it should take the whole evening for a student to complete homework. I think it should just be a reinforcement of what they do at school. And so 10 to 20, 30 minutes at the most, depending on their grade level or whatever they're studying. Maybe even up to an hour once they get in high school. But I feel like if they're in high school a whole day, or in regular school, or whatever the school, a whole day. And so I don't feel like it should take up the whole day to do the whole evening to do homework. But it should be just a reinforcement of what we do, what we're covering in the classroom. But how do you know that they're doing it? That's the other question. So I feel like it's fair to say that 10% of their grade should be homework. Because think about it, that's really, you don't really want to put on 50% for homework. I mean, that would be ridiculous. You might as well just have them be homeschooled. So, okay, the other thing is, I did raise the motion to accept the policy change that we did the other night. So I believe in it. I believe that teachers should be treated professionally.
Okay, next.
You know what? I'm gonna stand down here.
But then that's not fair, because you pull my mic, you gotta walk down there to pull their mic.
I just want to be on record as saying that Johnston's matter.
No comment. Homework. The reason this issue come up is because parents don't feel children have enough time to do their homework. They're in advanced soccer, they got music practice, they got all these outside school activities, and they don't have time for homework. What I think is they don't have time to prioritize what's more important. Both of my sons played soccer year-round, and they only played soccer. I limited them to one sport activity, and homework was the rest of it. My son Stephen attended the Health Science Academy at Bayside. Every night he had massive amounts of homework, and he complained about it, but he did it and turned it in. Today he's going to ODU. Professors are giving them massive amounts of homework. At least at Bayside, teachers coordinated their projects. ODU, the professors are not. Everybody's saying we want this and we want it now. My son, because he was trained to do homework in high school, now has a 4.0 GPA at Old Dominion. Most of his friends don't, because they don't do the work that's assigned to them. They haven't been trained that way. I, as an engineer, I still do homework. Last night I was marking specs for a project.
Homework. How many of you all had homework in your class when you were going to school? Here's the issue. Homework is not about the work. It's about a mindset into getting them into the mindset of being able to be, number one, accountable, but two, to be able to sit down and to be able to get whatever work done. In my college classes, I never really knew how much homework really impacted me until I had to write a paper. When you have a deadline to write a paper by a certain time, you're conditioned to sit there and type out your paper. You don't have the pens and paper anymore. They're computers. They don't even spell check. So for people to talk about we don't know who does the homework, the way to benchmark that is through testing. That's how you find out if they're doing the homework or not, because you give them the information and then they regurgitate it back to you. Again, my name is Eric Ray, and I'm running for school board in the Centerville District all the way with Eric Ray. Next question.
And make sure to use the Yvonne Ray.
And where are we at?
I'm first.
Okay. Here's your question. Lyndon Remus, city auditor, presents his city budget, city audit for public review. School audits are not transparent. Why and what can be done to change that?
Well, first I have to give Stephen Johnston credit for teaching me this because I did not know it. Thank you, Stephen. I found out just recently that the school auditor reports to the school superintendent rather than the school board. So what are the chances that the school board is going to get the real information by the time the superintendent who oversees the auditor takes a look at the audit and then sends it back to the auditor for edits? What's the chance that the school board is actually going to get the realistic information? I think that has to be changed, and that is one of my top priorities when I'm elected. Thank you.
I agree with what Vicki just said, that the school auditor ought to be appointed and accountable to the school board, much like the city auditor is to the city council. Lyndon Remus, the city auditor, is a model for the kind of person we should be looking for the schools. And an auditor does more than just look at the budget and audit the budget. He looks to eliminate waste, he looks to eliminate fraud and abuse. Lyndon does that remarkably well, and we need an auditor with the schools who does it equally well, reports specifically and directly to the school board and through the school board to the public, and that's the best way to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse from our school system.
We have 2 school board members who sit on our audit committee, and every time they meet, one of those school board members reports back to us, the school board, about what's happening with the audit committee. So it's a misinformation that only the superintendent is getting that information. We are getting that every time they meet. So it's another misinformation that's being given out there. Our school board members that are part of that audit committee meet regularly every single time, and they give us the report.